Hello students, before we completed the last session, I gave a gist of section 6 which talks about regulation of combination. If you were to recollect, we had discussed in detail as to what is a combination and how are combinations seen under this act. In this session, I am going to talk in detail about section 6 which forms the basis of bringing about some sort of a regulation over combination. Formation of combinations, as you must note, which has an adverse impact on the competition regime in India, would be brought under the bracket of regulation. Section 6 particularly talks about what is the kind of regulation that is imposed in form of section 6. Section 6 subsection 1 says, no person or enterprise shall enter into a combination which causes or is likely to cause an appreciable adverse effect on competition within the relevant market in India, and such a combination shall be void. What is the understanding of this language? The language says clearly that any combination which will have an adverse impact on the competition regime will be considered void if no regulation, if it is not taken approvals from the commission. Let us see, I have stretched the meaning of it a little bit by saying, adding a word, saying that permission of the commission is required. Subsection 2 in fact talks about when should you make an application for seeking this permission. And please students, please bear in mind the caps that have been discussed under section 5 A, B and C, which was dealing with situations such as acquisition, control, merger and amalgamation. Now let us get back to section 6 subsection 2. Section 6 subsection 2 reads as follows. Subject to the provisions contained in subsection 1, any person or enterprise who or which possesses to enter into a combination shall give a notice to the commission in the form as may be specified, and the fee which may be determined by the regulations disclosing the details of the proposed combination within a period of 30 days of A. Approval of proposal relating to merger or amalgamation referred to in clause C of section 5, which I just discussed, by the board of directors of the enterprise concerned with such merger or amalgamation as the case may be. To pay attention, it is referring to merger and amalgamation, which we had already discussed under section 5 C of the combination definition. Coming back to our section again, subsection 2 of section 6 says, at a stage where execution of any agreement or document for acquisition referred to in clause A of section 5 or acquiring of control referred to in clause B of section 5. This also you must be familiar by now about section 5. So basically, at the stage when you are entering into an acquisition or you are acquiring some sort of a control, or in situation there is a merger and an amalgamation, you are obligated to file your permission to the commission. It reads further, section 2A reads as follows. No combination shall come into effect until 210 days have passed from the date on which the notice has been given to the commission under subsection 2, or the commission has passed orders under section 31, whichever is earlier. As you can understand from the language which is just spelled out, it is clear that there is a timeline given of 210 days for the commission to act on the notice given by the relating to a proposed transaction. Further, if you look at subsection 3, once a notice is received by the commission must be given an opportunity to conduct an inquiry. This part of it is discussed under subsection 3 of section 6. Subsection 3 of section 6 reads as follows. The commission shall, after receipt of the notice under subsection 2, deal with such notice in accordance with the provisions contained in section 29, 30 and 31. Section 29, 30 and 31 will lay down the procedure of inquiry as to how an issue should be referred notice with regard to acquisition or merger or amalgamation should be dealt with. I will deal with section 29, 30, 31 in detail when I go to the chapter relating to the duties, powers and duties of the commission. Now let us move on to the next subsection 4. You understood that whenever there is a transaction which deals with a combination, you need to seek the permission of the commission as understood from the sections we just read out. Now, the question that you should ask is, will all combinations be brought under the scanner, or will all combinations require to be obtained permission? Are there no exemptions to this? The answer is, there are certain exemptions. Subsection 4 and subsection 5 talk about these exemptions when certain combinations are there. Now, what are the circumstances under which exemptions can be granted? Let us read subsection 4 of section 6. The provisions of this section shall not apply to share subscription or financial facility or any acquisition by a public financial institution, a foreign institutional investor, a bank or a venture capital fund, comma, pursuant to any covenant of a loan agreement or investment agreement. The catchwords for us to bear in mind are, it should relate, these specific transactions which have been named here must relate to loan agreement or an investment agreement. Perhaps the reason or the intention of the legislation would have been that when there is a loan kind of an agreement, or when there is something to do with an investment flowing in, such things should not be brought under a strict regime of regulation under section 6 of the Competition Act. Now, let us read further. Subsection 5 provides a little clarity on the transaction which I just discussed. Subsection 5 reads as follows. Subsection 5 says, the public financial institution, foreign institutional investor, bank or a venture capital fund referred to in subsection 4 shall, within 7 days from the date of acquisition, file in the form as may be specified by the regulations with the commissions the details of the acquisition, including the details of control, the circumstances for exercise of such control, and the consequences of default arising out of such loan agreement or investment agreement as the case may be. The language is clear. It says you will have to, post completion of the transaction relating to a loan agreement or an investment agreement, you will have to give a notification within 7 days of completion of such transaction. Please understand, the language is very simple. The technical embargoes laid under law are also very simple. As I said, though there is an exemption, but there is also a requirement that a 7 days notice of information relating to the completion of transaction relating to loan agreement and the investment agreement would have to be mandatorily disclosed to the commission as stated, as mandated under section 6 subsection 5 of the Competition Act. For the purpose of our understanding, you have come across two different terms. One term is a foreign institutional investor, the other term is a venture capital fund. The meaning of these two terms, there is an explanation provided under section 6 of the Competition Act, which provides as follows. For the purpose of understanding the term foreign institutional investor, it says it has the same meaning as assigned to it clause A of the explanation to section 115 AD of the Income Tax Act 1961. Similarly, the term venture capital fund has a similar meaning provided at clause 23 FB of section 10 of the Income Tax 1961. The purpose, perhaps the intention of the legislation is, suppose if somebody were to interpret this term very differently, they wanted to bring it under the tax scope by giving it a correlative interpretation of the term of these two terms, that is foreign institutional investor and venture capital fund. With this, we have completed section 6, which talks about regulation of combinations. With this completion, I will move into the next chapter, that is chapter 3. Chapter 3 of the Competition Act deals with various issues between section 7 to section 17 with regard to establishment of the commission, as to how it should be established, where it should have its branch office, whether it can have branch offices, where it should have its head office, who will be the chairman, what is the qualification for chairman, who will be the members and what is their qualification, their term, and what will happen if they resign, and appointment of Director General, to put it in short. Now, let us go section by section to understand the establishment of the commission first. Section 7 deals with the establishment of the Competition Commission of India. The Competition Commission of India will be established by the Government of India, and it will also decides the place where it's going to have its head office, and also if required it will have branches distributed across the country. So, section 7 deals with establishment of the commission. I am not reading the language of the entire section 7 because for the purpose of making it simpler in terms of understanding is concerned, because the language, the points that I just said are already covered in the language provided under section 7. I will continue doing the same thing for this entire chapter, because this chapter primarily focuses about chairperson and members and the competition commission, about salaries and about appointment of a director general and also staff that supports the competition commission, which is the reason why I thought it is relevant that I give you important points covered under each of these sections, that is section 7 to section 17. Let's move on to the next section, which talks about composition of the commission. In short, the composition of the commission says there should be at least 2 members and not more than 6 members. So, this has to be borne in mind, there should be at least 2 members and not more than 6 members. And it also talks about what is the qualification of members. The member who will be appointed as a member to the commission shall hold 15 years of experience in certain exceptional fields. And what are those fields? They are international trade, economics, business, commerce, law, finance, accountancy, management, industry, public affairs or competition matters, including competition law and policy, which in the opinion of the government thinks it to be useful to the commission. Now, this is exactly the various disciplines that a person who is actually wanting to be appointed for the member of a commission shall possess. And now under section 9 it talks about the selection committee for the chairperson and members of the commission. Who are the members of the selection committee? The selection committee members are Chief Justice of India or his nominee, and there is also Secretary of Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Secretary Ministry of Law and Justice, and 2 other experts again taken from a specialized who possesses certain special knowledge in relating to the subject matters we just discussed under the qualification of the members. Section 10 talks about the term of the chairperson and the members. Section 10 says that each of the member or the chairperson shall hold office for a period of 5 years until they are removed by other provisions under this chapter, provided there is also provisor to this section. The chairman and the member shall not hold office beyond once they attain the age of 65 years. In the process, this section 10 also covers that there is a concept called secrecy of oath. Now, these are all administrative kind of requirements. When some person is assuming a high position, there are certain confidentiality requirement which he will have to undertake by swearing in and by way of an oath. After section 10, we have section 11, which talks about resignation, removal and suspension of chairman and other members. Resignation under section 11 says that a member or a chairman can tender resignation in writing. If he resigns, the post gets vacant. In such event, he may be allowed to continue for another 3 months or till such time till a successor is appointed as decided by the Government of India. Further, in addition to notice in writing for leaving the post, there are other disqualifications which will decide whether a member shall continue or not. The other disqualifications are as follows. I have summarized. If you look at section 11, if you read the language of it, it is provided elaborately. For the purpose of our understanding, I have summarized them and listed out them as follows. Number 1, if you are found insolvent. For insolvency, people will understand. If you are declared insolvent, then you become disqualified. Number 2, if you are convicted in any case, it leads to a disqualification or removal from the office. Number 3, if you are holding a paid employment while in office, that also leads to a disqualification. If there is an abuse of your position to gain any finance, to obtain any financial gain, even that would lead to a disqualification. Thereafter, you have another ground which is called mental illness, which most of us understand in any administrative framework. Whenever a high post person is sitting and discharging certain government duties, he is supposed to have possess certain intelligible mindset to execute the orders, which is why mental illness is also considered a serious criteria. And also, in addition to this, there is also another disqualification which is put. If somebody is physically incapable, then he cannot discharge a duty of the position which he has been entrusted with. So, these are in sum and substance some of the grounds which can be considered for the purpose of disqualification of a member from the position which he is holding in the Competition Commission of India. Let us go into the very interesting section, section 12. It says restriction on employment of chairman and other members in certain cases. Now, what is the kind of restriction that they want to impose on the members? The restriction is it goes post employment, not during the course, post stepping down from the position of the member or a chairperson in the commission. There is a legal embargo put upon them which says that after you step down from the position of a chairperson or a member, you are not to be taking any employment with any enterprise or any party which was part of a proceedings before the Competition Commission of India within the 2 years after leaving the post as a chairman or as a member. This perhaps I think this flows with the policy or the purpose for which the Competition Commission is established. Perhaps this 2-year period post stepping down the position has been laid down for the purpose of ensuring that nobody can get an undue advantage of the position where he is sitting. This is a very interesting feature that is provided under this Act. In addition to the restriction shown or laid under section 12, there is an exemption to this restriction. The exemption that is provided is if any person is already an employee of the central government or state government who is sitting by a special position in the commission, such persons are exempted by virtue of the proviso under section 12 of the Competition Act. With that restriction, now let us move on to section 13, which talks about the administrative powers of the chairperson. The chairperson, it says, shall have general superintendence on all administrative matters, and he also has the power to delegate his power to any of the member if he thinks it is relevant and necessary. Now, let us see the next section. Section 14 talks about general salaries and allowances and other terms and conditions of services of chairperson or the members. This section is a general section which talks about salaries, as it speaks for itself, and other allowances which will be provided to the chairman, chairperson and other members. The next section that is relevant is section 15. Section 15 talks about vacancy. This is a very interesting section which I thought I will emphasize a little bit on section 15. Section 15 reading of it is as follows. It says vacancy etc. not to invalidate proceedings of the commission. Please catch the words that it says not to invalidate proceedings of the commission. There is a reason perhaps why they would have put this section here. Suppose the question that comes to all our minds is, suppose the commission has 5 members and a chairman. Suppose if the chairman during the course of a proceedings gets disqualified for the reasons specified under the statutory requirement under this Act, then in that case the question that comes to the mind of everyone is, would the proceedings already undertaking before a said commission would stand vitiated? The answer is no. This section says if there is a vacancy that falls by virtue of any member leaving, such a vacancy will not affect the merits of the case which are currently proceeding before the commission. So, this section becomes a very important section. The next important section is section 16, which talks about appointment of Director General etc. Under section 16, the central government of India by way of a notification can appoint a Director General. Now, Director General is appointed for the purpose of assisting the commission in conducting certain inquiries on matters which are in contravention of the Act and also perform such functions as may be required under the Act. In addition to appointment of Director General, the government may appoint such additional joint deputy or assistant Director Generals or such officers as may be necessary. These officers, suppose if this additional joint or deputy or Director General or Assistant Director Generals are appointed, all of them will remain under the control of Director General and will operate under his supervision for the purpose of discharging the functions under the commission, under the Competition Act. Further, the Director General and his team are appointed from the persons who hold, now this is with regard to appointment, who hold specialized knowledge in the disciplines prescribed. while we are talking the disciplines that they should possess, I mean the special knowledge that they should possess in certain disciplines are already described in detail under the qualification of the members and the chairperson under section 10. The similar experience which is drawn out of a special knowledge relating to those matters would be considered as a criteria for the purpose of appointing the Director General or his team, that is additional joint or deputy or assistant Director Generals. So, in sum and substance, section 16 provides for a provision relating to appointment of a Director General who will be specially designated to deal with inquiries and also discharge other functions by assisting the Commission to give effect to the Act. Let us move on to the next section, that is section 17. Section 17 talks about appointment of secretaries, experts, professionals, officers or other employees of the Commission. As the section speaks for itself, there is a requirement provided which is given to the Commission to appoint additional staff for the purpose of discharging the functions and the requirements under the Competition Act. With this section, the chapter 3 is completed and we will move on to the next chapter in the next session.